Hey guys, welcome back again. We are here with another Hunter x Hunter review and breakdown, and this time we are doing episode 62, 63, 64. We only got to do one this week, so I'm going to try and cover as much detail as I can. The first two episodes, a good amount of stuff happened. The third episode, not so much. So, episode 61 starts off not with our heroes, but with the Phantom Troop, arriving at Greed Island by boat. If you remember at the end of episode 61, that's actually how they were on the boat going there. As soon as they get there, they encounter a man who basically forces them off the island. This absolutely muscular dude named Razor. He looks like, he eats nails and stuff. We do go back to our heroes after, the Phantom Troop gets kicked back off the island, and Gon has decided on his special attack. It is the Jock and Fist, or Rock, Paper, Scissors. Rock is an enhancer technique where he forces his aura into his fist, does a power punch. He actually breaks a rock when he does it. Second is Scissors, where he wants to transmute his aura into a blade to be able to cut through at the minimum solid rock with it. And the last one is going to be an emitter technique with Paper, where he wants to fire his aura from his hand. I think it's a cool idea. We actually get a little shot of him trying it, and he can't actually shoot the aura yet. Killua actually shows Gon his lightning, which is cool, or they call it electricity, but electricity, lightning, same thing. Biscuit wants to take a break from training because, it's almost New Year's in the real world, but they've been in Greed Island for months. Turns out they almost forgot, but the final days to sign up for the Hunter exam are coming up. So Killua takes his leave from the game. They actually find a way for him to get off the island by going to a port and beating the guy who owns the port and turning him into a card, which turns into a ticket for Killua to get off the island. Killua gets off the island. He sees this another AI. She might actually be a real person. I'm not 100% sure. Kind of like the girl they met when they came in. But she basically tells him, if he's leaving, any of the cards in his free slots gone. But when he comes back, he can just go right in. She sends him to the town he has to go to for the Hunter exam. Before he left, told him the tree he has to go to, and about the Kirikos. I think that's how it's said. The human animal things that helped Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio out back all the way in season 1. It was actually really cool. Gon and Biscuit stay behind to train, and while they're training, this guy ends up approaching them. He teleports to them. You see he's got a bomb on his shoulder because of the bomber. This is all while the deal with the bomber is still going on. He explains to them who the bomber is, what's going on. He tells them about the deal. He also tells them that he doesn't actually believe that he's going to let them go. The timer's still clicking down. He ends up leaving, saying that he's going to go tell as many people as he can about the bomber. But he actually leaves and starts performing some weird Nen ritual. And as the episode goes on, we actually see what he was doing. The leader of the group meets up with Ginthru. They end up making a deal. It cuts back to this guy again, and this is what he did. He summoned this really ugly Nen beast that apparently was able to suck the bomber's aura off of him. But this creature won't dispel until the bomber either releases his technique or dies. So it wraps around him and he puts a cloak on to hide it, and it's just knowing that's on him is just nasty. Mm-hmm. Well, the bomber gets everybody's cards, and then the 3 bombers touch their thumbs and they release. Now the deal was to let everybody go, but they just kill the whole crew. They blow everybody away and was just like, let's just eliminate the competition. They laugh about it. It's all nasty. Really, really stupid. Gon and Biscuit go back to Masadora because they have a bunch of monster cards and they trade them out for spell cards. Gon wanted to go back to the hideout, but they weren't even sure where it was. Killua meets up with the Kurikos, and they decide to help him because he was friends with Gon, and the episode ends with him telling stories about his time with Gon. The next episode picks right up with Killua going to take the Hunter exam. Kilo walks in and there's already over 1,000 people there to take the hunter exam. And because there's so many people there, they decide to hold a preliminary where they want everybody to knock out 5 other people and take 5 badges, and then you could come out and actually take the hunter exam. Well, Killua decides to flex. He takes out everybody. They had 2 hours to accomplish this. In an hour and a half, Killua walks out, and the proctors was like, "What took you so long?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, but it took me so long to get all these badges." He pulls out every single badge from every other participant. That's over 1,200 badges. Everybody else is unconscious in the next room. He took them out in seconds and spent the rest of the time gathering the badges. Well, this guy calls Chairman Netero. Chairman Netero's like, "It's fine, let him pass." He obviously knows what he's doing. I mean, he's already technically passed the second hunter exam, learning about Nen. We actually heard some really cool lines. One guy actually said to it while he was getting beat up by Killua that Killua was born to be a top-rate hunter. And I think that's awesome for Killua, that somebody else could recognize him as a hunter as opposed to just an assassin. One thing that Hunter x Hunter has always absolutely 100% nailed is their character development. I went back and thought about it, and I talked to a friend of mine about it, but there's not a whole lot of fights in this anime for a shonen anime. Like, I think in season 1, the only real fights we had, because you can't really count Hisoka fighting those 5 dudes because he just slaughtered them with just, one shot. But Hisoka versus the Proctor with the knives, and then Gon versus Hanzo were really the only fights we had. Season 2, even though they were in, a combat arena, every fight was a slaughter, except for Hisoka versus Castro and Gon versus Hisoka. Those were the only real fights we had. Season 3, we had Kurapika and Uvogin, and then Crollo versus Silva and Zeno, which didn't even have an end, not definitively. And that's all we really had for fights. But the amount of growth we've had with these characters and the amount of attachment we've had is just, it's next level compared to other shonen. After we see Killua smoke the hunter exam, he goes back and he sees all the spell cards that Gon and them have, and they use a spell card to see all the people they've met. And Killua freaks out because he sees that apparently Gon has met Crollo Lucifer in the game, which made no sense because Crollo can't use Nen. So how did he get into the game? They end up realizing that's not really Crollo, but it cuts over to the Phantom Troop, and Shalnark basically saw the same name and starts laughing because he figured it out. Turns out Greed Island is directly east of York New City. And when Crollo had his fortune, it said that, he would find somebody he needed into the Far East. Turns out Crollo must have went to Greed Island, got kicked off by Razor, but realized somebody was there that could exercise the Nen from him. So he hired somebody to exercise his Nen and use his name. Turns out it was our boy Hisoka. So Hisoka shows back up, and now he's gonna be stalking around for the arc, and that already excited me because I love Hisoka. Killua leaves the game again to call Kurapika to see if Crollo's actually in the game. That's how they figured out it wasn't him, because he set it up so he would know if his Nen was ever removed from Crollo. So Kurapika's not worried about it. But then we see what happened to his boss. His boss is in shambles. He's absolutely losing his mind, because this is the first time we find out that Crollo doesn't copy Nen abilities. He straight just takes them. I know they said it once, as it was Silva that said it, that he can steal abilities, but we never saw what happens to the victim after he steals it, which I'm not surprised. He probably kills most people that he takes their abilities from. But Neon can't use her auto writing anymore. So now we know that Crollo he gets your ability's gone. Gon, Biscuit, Killua end up in a casino where they basically gamble for more cards. And Killua uses this dice called Risky Dice. The better you roll, the better your luck is. But you can also roll really bad, and if you roll the worst luck, you'll just die. Like a dude is sitting in front of a slot machine that explodes in his face, and he just dies. Killua gets lucky, rolls good luck, and manages to actually get another card. We get a little montage of them, hunting for cards because they decide to take a break from training because they haven't been focusing on actually trying to beat the game. They get like 50 cards in like 3 days. They get ridiculous progress. Gon gets a necklace called the Paladin Necklace, which basically makes him immune to all attack spells and able to break curses on cards or spells on cards. So it's really, really cool because like if somebody tries to give him a fake card, he can immediately tell it's a fake. It's probably the most useful thing that he gets out of this entire season. We go back to getting through the bomber and the bombers, and Tezgarik, the guy we saw all the way from the beginning of this of episode 1. We haven't seen him since everybody came into Greed Island. He contacts Get Through. They have the most number of cards between the two of them, and they start trying to make bargains to get cards from each other. Get Through decides he's going to take him up on his offer, but they're going to screw him. Get Through and his two buddies decide to use Risky Die in combination with a card that steals 3 cards from your opponent. And they all managed to steal 9 of their actual slot cards, only because they rolled good on the Risky Die. They took the risk of potentially dying to be able to jump to the head of the game. So now they have the most cards in the game, and they're the closest to clearing the game. After a few of their adventures, and now that they have the Paladin Necklace, Gon has an idea about going to see the people who they gave all their money and clothes to, who were sick. Maybe they have a curse on them, and maybe the necklace can save them. The necklace was only supposed to work on cards, but it turns out these people were all actually NPCs, so they all turn into cards, and Gon manages to heal all of them. And they give Gon a ring that turns out to be one of the rarest cards in the entire game. It's one of the only cards that Genthu's group doesn't have. I'm sorry, I got so wrapped up in talking that I actually skipped where the next episode started. So the episode ended, episode 63. Episode 63 ended with these guys trying to make a deal with Genthu's group. The episode started off with them meeting up and then getting their cards stolen. After they manage to get the ring, Gon's team gets contacted by one of the guys that took their cards at the beginning of the game, and they meet up with a bunch of other groups, and they start discussing what they're going to do because Genthu's about to win the game. They don't want him to win the game, so they decide to monopolize on one of the cards that he doesn't have. Basically, they're going to try and win one of the cards he doesn't have and make sure that nobody else can get it. So they look up the 4 cards that they're missing. Card number 0, apparently there's a rumor going around that it only comes out when all the other cards are grabbed, so they just don't even worry about that. Gon's team has number 75, but apparently so do 5 other teams. And then the other one, there was one card, I think a number 4, that 3 of the teams have, so they can't monopolize it. The only card that's left is the number 2, which nobody has. So they start looking for number 2 after exchanging all kinds of information. They go to Sofrabi, where apparently the number 2 card is, and they find out that there's a quest where there's a bunch of pirates that have taken over the port of the city, and they think that if they can handle these pirates, that they'll be able to get the card. It turns out nobody's ever seen this quest before, because the quest has to do with Razor, the guy we met at the beginning, and his 14 devils. So nobody's ever shown up there with a party of 15. Well, when they went there from their meeting to Sofrabi, they used an accompany card with all 15 of them, and that's what triggered the quest, because they showed up with 15 of them. The only other things that really happened in this episode was mostly a lot of talking, but there is one thing I did miss. Gon, Killua, and Biscuit were trying to get more cards. They were actually were monopolizing on leave cards with people who were trying to get out of the game, and basically said, "Cool, here's a leave card. Give us your rare cards, and you can bounce." It was funny. They ended up with like 54, 55 different cards before they got contacted. It was a smart idea. That group of people that are all plotting against Genthu had to each have at least 50 cards or more before they even considered asking for help. It was funny watching them bicker back and forth because, they saw a bunch of kids. They didn't think they'd actually be useful, but they're the only ones that knew what getting through his ability was. So they start swapping cards for information and all kinds of stuff. They all end up working together. They find this quest, and it ended with them meeting the pirates. I know I did a lot of doubling back at the end of this, but I just wanted to make sure I got all the information out. Like I said, not a lot happened in the third episode. It was mostly just playing against the bomber and his team. But that's the 3 episodes this time, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I do as many Hunter x Hunter reactions to that as my schedule allows. We are trying to blow through Greed Island to get to Chimera Ant. I want to watch that arc. I haven't watched it yet because I want to talk to you guys about Greed Island first. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 300 by the end of the year. It has been a trip just getting this far. And I love it. But that's it for this video, guys, and I will catch you on the next one. Later.